Good afternoon, Las Vegas. This is Clark with the Herd. I hope you're listening so you can be heard. And we're coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here in the lovely country of America. While we still have a country, we're doing our best anyways to try to preserve, not only preserve what was founded for us, but try to get our railroad back on the tracks going towards productivity rather than away from it, towards the cliff that these liberal progressives like to bring us towards. But we'll make it. I think Trump's going to be on the revival tour here shortly. We've got at least the CNN network seems to be a little bit more behind Trump a little bit, because Cruz had started to rise. They hate him too. So, it's kind of like a toss-up. Which one do we want least? The Republican establishment doesn't want either one of them because they can't control either one of them. I think they could control Cruz, but more so than Trump. So when push comes to shove, I think the Republicans have played their cards and they're against Trump, but we'll see what happens. But this political mess that we're in is attributable to one thing and one thing only, in my opinion, and that is these corrupt political parties. There's two parties, and we need, as a nation, to get rid of both of them. That is the disease. Now, let me put this for everyone listening, and you tell me, common sense-wise, why is this so? If you're familiar with businesses, companies, corporations, anybody that's in business to make money, let's put it that way. You have an organization, you have employees maybe, and those employees are tasked with a duty. And that duty is to promote the company, make it great, make it as best as it can be, make it profitable. Otherwise, what happens? You don't have any job to go to because your company goes broke. So everybody working under the same roof really has the same goal, to promote that business to be successful, so that you can maybe be a little more successful than the competition, maybe do a little better job, maybe get a raise, maybe benefit in the productivity of your company. So everybody within the company has an idea, and they bring their idea through the system to their bosses, whatever, and see what happens with their idea. The difference between a company and the government is as follows. In the government, we are controlled by two political parties that are diametrically opposed to one another. They will never agree on anything, because if one says 2 and 2's 4, the other one's going to say you're wrong, 3 and 1's 4. They will never, ever, ever agree. That's the whole system. They have to fight between the parties so that they can maintain the structure of their organization and their party. American businesses, or anybody, a household, nobody runs that way. Nobody. If they do, they fail. They go bankrupt. And what are we facing right now as a country? We're bankrupt. So use your common sense. This system that has been implemented on top of us, we didn't come up with this two political party idea. As a matter of fact, our founding fathers warned us against coming up with anything so reckless, that was a cancer on our society, because it'll never ever work. Name one business where you have employees that when one person comes up with an idea, another person in the company fights them on it. Fight, fight, fight. You're never going to get anything done. No matter who comes up with a good idea, it never even hardly gets to the boss, because it never gets to his desk for signing, because Harry Reid opposes it. I mean, this is just a vicious, vicious cycle of chaos. This will never, ever work. Let's boil it down to basics. What business has ever run like this? Ever? Do you think the Trump organization is run with all the family members in there fighting one another? Hell no. Or they wouldn't be where they are. All of Trump's airplanes would crash. His helicopters were broke. You have a pilot, you have a co-pilot, and they're fighting for the controls. One wants to turn right, the other one wants to turn left. How's the airplane ever going to find the runway? It's ridiculous. Use your common sense. We have to do whatever we can do to get rid of the political parties, and now we have the perfect opportunity because they've shown their colors. They are inoperable. They will never make it. You can't fly an airplane with two pilots that are opposing each other. You're going to crash. And that's what's happening in this country. We're going to crash and burn because of the Harry Reids and the Nancy Pelosi's and people of that ilk that are just going to take one side or another. Now, the founding fathers, they created the government. And you say, well, the government's divided. No, it's not. It was set up with checks and balances. Three basic branches of government. The legislature, you can compare it to the president. The Congress and the Senate. The executive, which is the president. And then the judiciary, which I guess could be the Supreme Court and all the federal courts and so forth underneath it. So those are three distinct branches of government. They're supposed to check and balance each other. If one of those should get out of whack, the legislature is supposed to pass laws and the judiciary is supposed to uphold them. Now, this doesn't happen too much in our particular environment because they more or less oppose each other. Why? Because of political parties. That's why. I heard the president say something the other day. Now, this particular president has said a lot of things, okay, a lot of things that are really despicable. But when you think about what is the job of the president and what is the makeup of America, what makes America run? Our illustrious president, in some kind of an interview with whoever it was, I don't know, maybe it was Chris Wallace, maybe not. But anyways, he said that the Supreme Court is tied. That's what he said. The Supreme Court's tied. Now, I didn't know the Supreme Court was a baseball game or a football game. What does he mean it's tied? What is he referring to? This despicable, out of touch, no common sense president calls the Supreme Court tied. What is he talking about? Because there's been 4 liberal judges appointed and there's been 4 conservative judges appointed. So in an Obama mind, that means it's tied. That's why we have to get rid of the political parties. We can't have a court that's tied, okay? The court has to rule on law. They have to rule on common sense as it relates to law. Does the law make sense? It's the law of the land, so it makes sense until we change it. So that is the law. Whether there's 4 justices appointed by a liberal president or 4 appointed by a conservative president, the law should be the law. It shouldn't matter that the court's tied, as this idiot president says. What's tied? This shows you where this country has gone to. When we have a community organizer or disorganizer, as I like to call him, sitting in the Oval Office, this man does not have a single clue what America is supposed to be about. He doesn't know why it was founded. He doesn't know a thing about the Supreme Court. This man is the worst president this country has ever had. If he was running a business, which he never has, and maybe it's because he never could, it would be broke. Look what he's done to the country. 8 years ago, he gave a speech. It's unpatriotic, our debt. $9 trillion, it's unpatriotic. Blah, blah, blah. Well, where is it now? Oh, it's $20 trillion. You unpatriotic baboon. What kind of way is that to run a country or a business? You would be broke. You're an idiot. Get the hell out of office. Why don't you just go somewhere and not come back? You're the worst president I've ever seen in my lifetime. That's for damn sure. And I hope you're the last I ever see in your ilk, because you are pathetic. The Supreme Court's tied. Jesus Christ. Buffoon. I got to take a rest after that. Got anything to say over there, Captain Legal?
Well, I like your evaluation.
Yeah.
I think the I think the parties are the nemesis that, like as you said, we were warned about. They, uh, they definitely, as far as I'm concerned, gave us a Federal Reserve System. The only thing that I would slightly take issue with is our national debt because it's in the quadrillions. They haven't announced that yet because I think there'd be
I'm sorry, the deficit.
there'd be a you're right. There'd be a revolution overnight if the American people actually knew how much the government is going to allege that we owe these banksters. Uh, I'm sure
Unfunded
you heard.
mandates and things like that, and that's the entitlements and all that add up to,
Well,
I've heard $200 trillion.
the biggest part is the securitization process. That you know what busted the housing market. See, that was designed to take away the middle class's reserve. Most countries don't have reserves. They have haves and have-nots, the rich and the meager poor. And the middle class was an experiment in this country. It was established through the Constitution, a republic, and it turned into a fantastic success for the middle class, but it was an awful failure for the political hacks that like to control everybody and everything. You know, the extremely wealthy. So they decided to wipe out the middle class. And the way they did it is they played upon the desire and the greed of people through the real estate market, and they destroyed it. Well, they created all this phony debt, and what do you think that the banksters did with it? They sold it to the government. So, folks, you actually owe my latest count is somewhere between 2 and 3 quadrillion. That's an extra set of three more zeros on the highest trillion evaluation that you've ever heard.
Does that equate to $250 trillion if we put it in English?
No, it's about probably 100 times more. It's actually more value than there is in the entire planet. They say that we owe them. And we're going to have to go to another planet to get some precious metal, evidently, and bring it back and pay them because there isn't that much money or wealth in the entire world. But that's okay, just pay them the interest. They created it with ink and paper, and now just pay the interest on it.
Is the money that we have to pay to keep our head above water equal right now to our GNP? We at 100% of our GNP.
It's approaching it from what I've been told.
Yeah, I heard that we were at it.
I do have a clip that I'll be sending out as soon as we get enough people, or first thing we do, maybe we'll watch the video. It's a 30-minute segment from Ellen Brown, the former head of the HUD organization under Reagan. And she explains, see, Japan does it totally different.
They're supposedly at 250% of their GNP.
Right, but it's not causing a problem. They're one of the wealthiest countries in the world. You know why?
Where do you get that from?
They applied the North Dakota system.
Oh.
The government is paid. You borrow the money from the government, and then Japan, they actively vet their politicians. Who knows? They may even count the vote in Japan. And they're either the second or third most economically well-off country in the world, but they have a tremendous national debt. But just like North Dakota operates as a surplus. It's not publicized much. I wonder why. But when we return to the Constitution, don't worry, that stuff's going to get explained to Donald Trump in the first 30 days, and he's going to put some of the best experts like Ellen Brown on it. And I think it's going to get done.
Czars like Van Jones or these complete inebriates that don't have a clue. What, they wouldn't be dog catchers if it weren't for. And of course, Obama has to appoint people that don't have a clue because he doesn't have a clue. So he couldn't appoint someone that actually knew what they were doing.
Well, you know, ignorance loves company.
Well, when a household is spending either as much exactly or more than they earn, what's their status? They are broke. And the reason for our bankruptcy laws is to give people a revival to where they can get back on their equal footing and maybe reestablish themselves to where they're kind of current again and not broke. Otherwise, everybody in the country would be broke if it wasn't for bankruptcy laws. Well, I mean, this country has gotten itself into bankruptcy because of Harry Reid's types and Nancy Pelosi types who put forth the fact that unemployment's good because for every dollar we spend, we get $1.79 back. With thinking like that, this country is broke.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that there's a lot of distractions out there. I think one of them I'd like to do a show on in the days ahead is after Trump wins the election, definitely. And that's the gold and silver distraction. There's a lot of talk about, oh, you got to invest in gold and silver. Well, folks, if it really, really gets bad, the least thing you're going to have to worry about is how much gold and silver you got. Because the person that's got bread is going to have all the gold they want. You can't eat that gold or silver, and you might need a machine gun to protect it. So you better be prepared to kill people to protect it. It's just not a scenario that I want to see happen. I've tried to focus through the years of this entirely at the monetary system because we don't know how many problems will go away when we get back to the Constitution as far as our monetary system. That's my thoughts on it.
Well, I've always thought that things like gold, for example, has a lot of value to it that people place on it because it's supposed to be so valuable. Well, what is the value when you get down to where everybody's starving to death? Really, what is the value of it? It's all contrived because it's just something you find in the ground. It may be rare, but does the rarity of something make it valuable when you're hungry? If it was a grape or something that you could eat, maybe. But other than that, it doesn't. And what about these millions of dollars that people pay for art from this famed dead artist? Okay, $30 million painting. What value will that painting have when the actual makeup of the product is a bunch of, not a bunch even, a little bit of canvas, a little bit of, let's say, oil paint. If you scraped all the value off of that painting and put it in a jar, you wouldn't have 2 cents worth of anything. So what is the intrinsic value that somebody used their talent to paint somebody that's now long gone and dead? So what? It's not even worth a piece of toilet paper. It will be worth more. And maybe that's the reason that Venezuela or Argentina, wherever it is, doesn't have any toilet paper anymore. Maybe they're realizing that a lot of these assets that they thought they had sitting around are not even worth the pay. It's not worth anything. So we have some really fundamental thinking that we have to get back to what does have value, what means something in this world. And when our GNP and our expenditures match one another, we're in serious, serious trouble. And I don't see a lot of that Japanese money you're talking about being so wealthy flying over here buying buildings anymore like they used to do. And Trump would be bitching about it back then, saying they're buying up New York, they're buying up New York. At the time I knew Donald pretty well. I'd say, what the hell are you worried about the Japanese buying crap in your own backyard for? Let them come. They're not going to take the building and move it back to Tokyo. So what are you worried about? They're bringing cash. So I say, come on, guys. You're playing in my backyard. Bring all you want. You need a bigger wagon to carry it? I mean, that was my approach. And then sure enough, pretty soon the bubble burst. I was over in Hawaii and I saw these Japanese just pouring in. Oh, man, they'd go to the stores. They'd buy up all the golf clubs, all the new stuff. The women were running around buying up all kinds of rich little tit-tats and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, bam, they couldn't put 2 quarters together. And I heard they had a huge recession, and it lasted some 20 years, maybe a depression. And I think they're just barely coming out of it. But I don't know where all this wealth is you're talking about, because I don't see where they're doing that well, to tell you the truth. And I just look at what I see, because I notice things. And they're not spending money like they used to. And the Chinese, boy, they're slowing down big time, too. I think they've got some big problems coming down the pike. And one of them will be when Donald Trump gets elected, there's a big bad news coming for the Chinese. They may think that we owe them $1 trillion or whatever. They're going to learn when Donald Trump does his math and his adjustment on what we owe them, that they're going to find out, whoops, they don't have as much coming as they thought they did. And that's what Donald Trump does with negotiations. When markets change, when things go sideways, when he was borrowing money, when they had all those junk bonds and so forth for companies, buildings, casinos in Atlantic City, the interest rate was 14, 15, 16%. Well, what happened? That market crashed. Michael Milliken, the founder of those junk bonds, went to prison. So the market adjusted. It's like if you're a bank and you loan somebody value to a house, you tell them, well, you have to have a 20% down payment. Okay, well, you come up with a 20%, you buy the house, and then the house that you bought, the market collapsed, and now your house is only worth 50% of what you bought it for. What happens to your down payment? What happens to your equity? Guess what? It's gone. Now, if you walk away from your mortgage because you can move into the house across the street and cut your mortgage in half, guess what? You're going to move to the house across the street, and the bank can go to hell. And you know what? That very scenario went on in Houston that I personally witnessed. When I was drilling oil wells in Houston and actually buying up oil wells because they were 10 cents on the dollar, you could go to streets and you would see people moving furniture from one house right across the street into the other house. And as they were doing that, people were moving out of that house right across the street into those people's house. So what they were doing was swapping furniture between houses. Now, why were they doing that? Was because, and even in a lot of situations, the same lender was the same bank that owned both houses. But when you tell a bank, see you later, and there's no one left to buy the house from across the street, the bank's going to swallow hard and do business with you even though you just got foreclosed on across the street. Hey, you're a live body that can move into the other house. And what the bank should have done if they had someone smart running the bank, you know what, George, you just stay in your house. We're going to cut your interest down to half. And you stay in your house, Joe, and we're going to cut your interest down to a half. No, but you got idiots out there, so they make the people move their furniture from across the street. That's how they did that. But, I mean, it's stupid. When something changes and the market changes, everybody in the world's at risk. When you take your money and you invest it or you loan it to somebody, you're relying on the fact that your deal that you loaned it under is going to hold up and the market's not going to change. But when it changes, you're at risk, and that's just the way it is. Sorry about that. The money that we have in our pocket today with our illustrious leaders is not going to be worth the same thing tomorrow. And I'll guarantee you one thing, it won't be worth more, it'll be worth less, because we're run by idiots. And the natural system is that when you have a government monster that's part of the equation, that government monster is going to grow. And government doesn't build anything, it just consumes. So it's going to take more of the money, more of the money, more of the money. They got pensions, they got to raise everybody every year. I just heard a lot of government workers are getting a 39% raise. Well, only the government. How in the hell does the government justify a 39% raise when the actual industry in private enterprise are probably not even getting raises? And if they are, I guarantee you it'll be a token or less than 3%, and then it's probably based on some sort of merit. But that's the way you have to run the real world. You can't run government that way because they're not used to it. No bureaucrat knows how to produce anything. They're takers. They take from the rich and give to the poor to buy their vote so they can stay in power. And it's a system that'll never work. And what makes the system work is what I started out with. You have two diametrically opposed parties that will never ever get along. They fight each other, and that will never ever ever work. Just think about it. How is it going to work? How are you going to have a company where everybody in half the people in the company fight with the other half? Is that going to be a good company that you want to invest in? I wonder what their stock would sell for. Christ almighty, what a joke. What a joke. You got half the people half the people in this country have been dumbed down by the progressive movement that wants dumb people around to vote for them. And the dumb people are the problem too. That's another part of the equation that we have to stop that. We have to educate the people that live in this country. We have to educate them. And until we get this country straightened out, we have to, I hate to use a Trump word, they're going to get on me for this. We have to pause. We have to pause. That doesn't mean I'm now some kind of religious fanatic that wants to ban all religions. I didn't say that. I said we have to pause until we get this country straightened out. If you're in a ship and you're sinking, the last thing you do is load more passengers on board. You idiots. We have to take a break. We have to pause. And we have to get our problems straightened out in this country. We have to get our debt taken care of. We have to stop spending as much as we make. And we have to get ourselves out of bankruptcy. And we have to get jobs back. We have to get we have to get a tax structure to where we don't have the Nancy Pelosi's of this country dictating our tax policy. That lady couldn't figure out what 2 and 2 is if it wasn't for somebody with a brain telling her. She doesn't know dick. She's one of the most uneducated people I've ever seen, and here she was in a leadership. Only in our government, folks, only in America could anybody ever be functioning in a capacity with a title such as that person. She's absolutely the worst. And then we had a leader of the Congress years ago named Gingrich. And he came forth with a plan for America, 10-step plan, whatever it was, contract with America. And lo and behold, he got into power. For the first time in 40 years, the Republicans took over Congress again. And he comes with his 10-step plan. And God damn it, he did every friggin' thing on his 10-step plan. What the hell is this? All the liberals were going crazy. We can't have this. This is going to work. I mean, we can't have that. We're on the opposition side, remember? So we got to do something. So they dug down in their coffers and got all their money people and their George Soroses of the world to give them funding. So they literally spent $150 million to destroy Newt Gingrich with an ad campaign that was specious and it was false, it was fraudulent, and they destroyed the man because he's just Newt Gingrich. He had an idea and he told the people what he was going to do. He got elected because of it, and he did his plan. He wasn't a billionaire that could afford all the crap that was thrown at him, so he went down in flames because the one side of this government, whatever side it may be, is not going to put up with any success stories from the other side because they're against that. They oppose that. They have to. That's the system that's in play with these two parties. One party is always going to oppose whatever the other party proposes. That's just the way it goes. And this country will never be a success because of it. So I've been touting for months now, since I've been on this show, that we have to get rid of the political parties. It's 90% something, maybe 99% of our problem. Just get rid of the parties. Now you talk to all these people, you can't get rid of the parties, my God. And then you ask them, why not? And they all slow down a little bit and they back up a little bit. I swear I hear that music dancing in their heads with that question because they don't really have an answer when you think about it. What do the parties do for you, for the voter? What do they produce? What is the productivity of a political party? Their whole goal is to raise money from special interests, and then what do they do with it? They buy people in power to get them to do what they want to do. And that's the way it is. So think about it. Think about it. Just use your head. Very common sense question. What do the parties do for you, an individual? What do they do? Anybody want to call in and tell me what they do? I don't think anyone's going to call because there's nobody who can tell me what they do. Everyone that heard that right now is thinking, going, well, I don't know. I don't know. What do they do? I have no idea.
I think I can offer you one thing that they do.
Devastation?
It appears that they rigged elections.
Well, is that productive for the American person, the voter?
If you're plugged into the gravy train, I guess.
Oh, well,
it's real important.
Sure. That's my point. That's my exact point. What do they do for the benefit, the
Oh,
productivity
the
of
American
America?
people. You got me there.
If you were a business, like my description of how businesses function, how would you make it in an environment where you have half your employees working against the other half of your employees? What are you ever going to do? You couldn't make a wicket. How are you going to produce anything?
You'd have to have a lot of guns.
You'd have to steal. You'd have to steal from the competition because you couldn't produce anything.
Sounds like the insurance company. You just buy a law that says that Americans have to buy it.
Okay, well, you think that the insurance company wasn't running around with money, stuffing?
Of course they were.
Yeah.
They wrote the law.
Reed with his corn husker.
Hey, we need this passed. Yes, sir. We'll do that.
That's a good example. Because by forcing the people of this country to buy something is strictly against the Constitution. And then we have this, well, I don't know what word to use for them, phony conservative, let's say, Supreme Court Justice named Roberts, John Roberts, one of the biggest phony baloney people I've ever seen, and appointed by a Bush, and that's one of the reasons that I'm not a fan of Bushes anymore, because they appointed that clown. Now, you can get fooled now and then. I mean, I understand that. People lie, they cheat, they steal, they fabricate things, what have you. But how do you, boy. And another reason things like that happen is because of the political parties.
Well, Kevin asked today if he got a caller and somebody said, well, it's the Republican electorate or the people in the Republican Party are actually libertarians and don't know that that's what they are. And Kevin asked him, he says, you know, if given the opportunity, how many of the Republicans would gravitate to the Libertarian Party? And I immediately, if Kevin had asked me that question, I'd say, is Donald Trump their presidential candidate? Because that'll certainly affect. I would predict that the Republican Party would just shrivel up and die, and the Libertarian Party would have 60 or 70% and probably become the major party. Now, does that mean that the American people wouldn't have to start watching the Libertarian Party? Of course. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I would ask you a question, but I know you didn't watch it. Geraldo Rivera had a debate from the Libertarian Party on a show this last week. I forget, it was two shows, kind of like part one, part two. But he had Gary Johnson, he had the guy McAfee, and he had some other guy, I forget his name, but a pretty young guy, kind of like a young Rubio type person. But they were asked questions, the three of them together. They didn't really have any animosity at all going between the three candidates whatsoever. And they were asked very good questions. And I'll tell you what, none of them are going to really be in the forefront because just the way it is. But I'll tell you, you listen to what they have to say, with the exception of Gary Johnson, who has been a governor, I think, of New Mexico or wherever he's from. He's a little bit political in some answers. So he leans a little bit. But his ideas are libertarian for the most part. But he was a little iffy to me. But McAfee, right on the money. Boy, I'll tell you what, his solutions come out like a bam. Like his instinct is right on. I was impressed. The young kid that was there, I forget his name or what his background is or where he was from, but he was right on the money too.
I played an interview with McAfee. He's developed the security system.
Yeah, and he was living down in Belize.
He is sharp. He's kind of like a 007 agent, I understand.
Well, down in Belize, he had some issues down there that I think the cops or somebody down here said he killed somebody. And, you know, there's a lot of issues, but he is walking around and he's not under arrest. And I mean, he's really, you know, takes all that saying it's all BS, and it probably is, but he is sharp. And he can't build a company like McAfee, whatever it is, without having something on the ball. But all his answers were right on the money, man. I agreed with every single one of them. And I'll tell you something else. I can listen to a Bernie Sanders and a Hillary Clinton, and 100% of the time, I don't agree with anything they say, not even close. But I can listen to a libertarian and I can listen to a conservative and I can mostly agree with them. But when I listen to a guy like a Ted Cruz, oh, they say he's conservative, he's this, or whatever he is, I don't care about what the word is. When I hear a politician running for office saying things like, for 45 years, Donald Trump has been supporting Planned Parenthood and partial child abortion. I mean, that's a friggin' lie, okay? It's just a goddamn lie. And then the other thing he says, well, do you know that Donald Trump supports, has given money to Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and you know, all these Democrats? How about you, Ted? He gave you $5,000 when you were running for Senate, but you failed to mention that. You friggin' politician, lying bastard.
He took it. I kind of subscribe.
Why doesn't he be honest? Because he can't. He's a politician.
It's not in him.
So he's marked in my book.
I subscribe to the Judge Jeanine approach. You know, he was a businessman. I don't care if he was giving money to Republicans, Democrats, or Martians. Judge Jeanine said.
And does he deny it? Hell no. He wears it as a badge.
He needed those people on his side.
I wear it with a badge. He says, you damn right Hillary Clinton came to my wedding. I didn't ask her, I told her. I mean, Jesus Christ, what kind of president do you want? And I'm sure you didn't see last night, he was on a town hall. It was on, I think, CNN with what's his name? I don't even know these people. But he's done some debates. I'll know his name in a second, but he was on the town hall filmed by CNN, and I tell you, I see CNN leaning in Trump's direction because I think they're promoting him because you know why? They're falling for this idea that Hillary Clinton will trounce them.
They got people that are reading Matt Drudge and seeing what's happening, and ththese people aren't where they are because they're stupid. I mean, they've done what they were told long enough. Now they're beginning to question the motives of the people that are controlling them, and they'll say, "Well, this may not be good." You know,
Anderson Cooper, that's who it was on.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. And he interviewed Trump. I heard a clip with Trump today.
He was on the town hall. That's who I was trying to think of the name that interviewed him.
Okay.
And it wasn't just Trump. It was his wife. It was Ivanka. Well, I swear to God, that lady, she could be president someday. I'll tell you what,
Really?
oh my God, is she sharp. She speaks, she never misses a beat. She's right on about everything. That lady is sharp. I'll tell you what, her sister, who is the other Marla Maples' daughter, I guess, she's pretty. She's like 20. She's just either just coming out of college or something. She's okay. But boy, I'll tell you, Ivanka and her were next to each other. Ivanka is just overwhelming. Overwhelming. She could take on Hillary today and trounce her ass. If we had to have a woman president on this cycle, I would say Ivanka Trump is the one. God, is she smart. And she's been interviewed before. She's been asked tough questions. And she just, boom, it comes out like Trump's answer. It's right there. It's instinct. And she was asked a question the other night about Donald this or Donald that, and she mentioned the word instinct. And I've been saying that for a long time. Trump answers through instinct, not through a script, not through a teleprompter. He answers through instinct. And that's what we want for a president. Not like what we've had for 8 years, which has been nothing but pathetic. But I'll tell you what, you saw Trump there with his family. All 4 kids were there. And what a class act. And they all answered. They were all asked questions from the audience, was asking the questions. And I tell you what, it was goddamn impressive. Most presidential candidates I've seen, I mean, unbelievable. And what a family that would be. I mean, where do you get the chance in life to do something like this? What do we end up with? Obama, Clinton's, Al Gore? I mean, give me a break. This guy, hands down, is the best candidate ever to run for office in the world, not just America. In the world, the most qualified ever to run for president.
Well,
And he's a class act.
we definitely live in interesting times.
And there were people there that the Anderson Cooper would introduce them. This is Joe Blow from so-and-so, and he's leaning towards you. And then the guy would get the microphone and he'd go, Mr. Trump, I was leaning for you. Now I'm voting for you. And he'd go, oh, well, thank you very much, And there were many like that. He swung so many people. Rush Limbaugh had a call in on the show today. That was one of those guys at that town hall. And Rush Limbaugh said, in your question, you said you were undecided and now you're voting for Trump. Absolutely. And he spelled out why. And I mean, and there was reasons why. It wasn't just Bill. He's a nice looking man. It wasn't crap like that. It was real substantial because of his answers. I had a question about this and I questioned him on that, and man, I got the right answers. And he'll give you the right answer. You ask him and he will give you the right answer and he will satisfy you. You listen to the spin that some moderator gives you, the interpretation of what Trump's answer was, and you believe the opposite, you'll be right on the money. Because all they do is spin, spin, spin. But I have to say this, and it kind of like it. I noticed things. Anderson Cooper, who is a hack, he's a partisan hack. He's given orders to do whatever. CNN is backing off of Trump big time because they're not getting attacked. Did you hear that your girlfriend, Megyn Kelly, the word was snuck in or kind of like infiltrated Trump headquarters today, Trump Tower or whatever in New York, and they said, whatever. But she had I guess it was set up for an interview, or not an interview, but some sort. She was able to approach somebody, and the reason was, well, she was asking to move it up for whatever reason. Well, they ended up going to lunch. Trump and her went to lunch.
Uh-oh.
But the outcome of the lunch has not been broadcasted, I've heard.
Somebody predicted that Megan was, I think it was Kevin, that Megan would be moving on soon. And I thought, wow, I wonder if Alex Jones is going to offer a position.
Gee, what, that hack? That partisan bought off
It'd
hack?
be nice to hear what she really thinks rather than what they tell her to
That's
do.
true. Because she was bought on that first debate. She was bought.
She's no dumbbell. She's a sharp cookie.
I don't know
She's
about that.
Well, I do. I've heard years ago when she first started, she used to do a legal section. And I've heard her explain cases to people and break it down. And she has a nice mind.
Well, she may be sharp.
Nobody has
she
a
may
mind
be
when they're
intelligent,
told what to say.
But she has you go against her or she doesn't get her way or whatever. Like in that first question she asked Trump and it didn't come out the way she thought it was going to come out. She got pissed. And why did she get pissed? Because Trump said only Rosie O'Donnell, and that took the legs out from underneath of her. That she collapsed. That was it. She had no response to that. He absolutely, hate to use an old trumped her. But that's going to be my new word for the rest of it, trumped. It was great. But and she's held that chip on her shoulder ever since.
I'm not so sure.
Well, she's weakening.
It's politics, and I've been taught that if it happens in politics, it doesn't happen accidentally.
No, that wasn't an accident. She was bought and paid for.
She was told to be an attack dog.
Yeah.
She wasn't that comfortable, and she wasn't that familiar with the process. Like you said, she was stumped by Trump. Stumped by Trump. I like it.
That's another. That's your own saying. That's great. Yeah. So anyways, I think that, I always, I always thought that Trump could be the only person that could survive the massive onslaught of these disingenuous people that attack whoever the front runner is. And if it's a front runner that they will not be able to control, Jesus Christ, they're going to come after him with nuclear bombs. And that's what's happened. And you ask Trump, like they asked him the other night in this nice meeting, town hall type, about, the media or whatever, he comes right out and says they're the most untrustworthy, despicable characters on the face of this planet. And you go to any of his live things around here where you have these cameras and all these reporters set up on a stage in front of the platform, and they'll never turn their cameras off the podium whatsoever.
Now,
And
both
Trump
times
will
when
point
we
them
went-
out. He'll point them out, say, look at those bastards up there. And no candidate's ever dared to do that. Jesus Christ, the media will kill you if you take them on. And they're trying to kill him, and they can't. And that's what I love. It's great. They're throwing atom bombs at the guy, and he swats them away like those pesky little flies.
It just knocks them back into their place.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I love this guy. And because he's needed. He's a character. He has an ego. Who the hell wouldn't? I don't hold that against him. Rush Limbaugh has a huge ego, but he plays off of it. He makes a joke out of it. Now he may really think it, and when you take the fact that he is who he is with 20 million something viewers, not a week or a month or a year, how they all phony there, a day, okay, a day. That's pretty friggin' awesome. That puts him so far in the leaderboard that it makes Glenn Beck look like a fly himself. And he is. Glenn Beck is losing it. Okay, he's not genuine anymore. He said the other day on the air, I think he was on CNN or something, he said Donald Trump has lost the last 10 in a row. Will you tell me what 10 in a row he's lost?
Yeah, that was back.
Yeah.
11 in a row.
Well, whatever it was, 10 or 11.
I happened to have it on from the night before, and I turned it on, and I said, he says, Ted Cruz will be here in a minute. So I waited till after the commercial, and I swear he came on, he says, we won the last 11 elections in a row.
Now, did Cruz say that, or did Beck say it?
Cruz said that.
Okay, well, Beck said it when he was being interviewed on CNN, I think it was.
They got the same script.
Well, of course they do. But Beck said that Trump's lost 10 in a row. I've heard Cruz say that. I've heard him say it many times. But Beck saying that, that's an out-and-out motherfucking lie.
Well, he explained it, and it was contrary to everything that we'd been told about Colorado. He said there were 7 districts in Colorado.
So is that 7 of the 10?
That was 7 of the 10.
Oh, well, give me a break, will you?
Then the state, which was a combination of the 7. So that was 8 elections
Oh,
in
well,
a row.
for Christ's sakes.
Of course, now, the reason that Beck asked him, is the reason that you think you had such a support is Donald Trump not showing up? He said, well, that could have been, see, they create the scenario, and then they offer you a potentially plausible explanation.
That's like the poll they did, that 7 out of 10 people will never support Donald Trump. 7 out of 10 people.
Yeah, he's only got 15% of the people that support him. That's why everywhere he goes, he gets 20, 30, 40,000 people.
They come up with a 15% is only 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 don't support him. Well, what they did was they went and asked 10 of Cruz's family members and things of that nature. All they had to do was ask 10 people. And if 7 out of 10 said they'll never vote for Trump, then that's 7 out of 10 people. Now, where did they lie? The 10 people they asked, that's what they reported.
I'll leave you with this question. It was at the end of the show that I was listening to, and it was a call in. And he says, I wonder what would happen if Donald Trump had another sit down with the GOP and says, look, if you guys don't like me that much, I'll tell you what, I'll just go independent. There's no use us keeping battling. I wonder what they'd say then. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if that would work though. because that would give them ammunition.
Well, he agreed not to do it,
They would spin that into something
Right.
as negative as you could ever spin it into.
But he would, if he left it up to them, it would be their decision. He agreed not to support the elected representative of the Republican Party as long as he was treated fairly. I still remember the quote that he said when he was asked that. Well, at least one of the times that I thought was pretty official. It was one of the debates. He says, if I'm treated fairly, I'll support whoever the candidate is.
Okay, and he will, but they also asked him that, I think, at the end of maybe the last debate, the same type of question. If, would you support the nominee, whoever it may be, even if it wasn't you? And Trump said, even if it's not me? Right? It's like, what kind of hypothetical is that? You know, even if it's not me? I mean, the guy's perfect. He really is perfect.
Yeah. I'm not in this to lose.
Yeah, even if it's not me, it's like, what?
What kind of world would that
be? But, you know, he's first of all, the parties, the people that I hate at these parties, they set up these rules. Now, who the hell are they? Think they are to set up rules, okay? Now, if it comes down to election time and all of a sudden Trump goes independent, I'm sure they have the rules stacked to where you cannot, if you're a Republican, you cannot vote independent now, or there's some rule somewhere that they're not going to count your votes if you vote for Trump on the popular vote, because they don't count because you switch parties. I think this is something with Ivanka Trump that she disclosed the other night. She was registered as an independent, and she found out in the nomination process she couldn't vote for Trump. Why? Because the Republican Party says you have to vote, you have to register Republican. So a year prior to the nomination vote. What the hell makes these rules? Here's a party limiting who can be a Republican to vote for them? Have you ever heard of such a thing? Ed Williams and everybody's running around all over the place trying to get you to register. And they're saying you can't register?
It's just like the guy in Louisiana said, the political hack, the American people just don't know who they need to vote for, and we're going to disregard their votes until they decide, start making better decisions on who to vote for. Then we might, and he said that's exactly what he said, it was some political hack from Louisiana. If the American people get back on board and start voting for the correct candidates, we might consider counting their votes.
Right, okay. I think that these people are so stupid. This Republican Party thinks that they have some sort of misconceived power that they don't really have. That they are so friggin' stupid that if Trump gets 1,400 votes, so he's well past the 1237, and they come up with some scheme to not give it to him, there will be a riot to match all riots. That'll be the end of the Republican Party. But they're so stupid, they might try something like that.
Well, that's part of Alex and Roger Stone's plan. I'll be in Cleveland. I don't know where you'll be. If you're here, I'll be talking to you from Cleveland.
Well, if it looks to me like Trump just might get more than 50% of the vote in New York. And if he does, that's 95 votes. Now, California, believe it or not, I know they're tremendously liberal out there, but when you're talking either Republican or Democrat, because the primary, you know, the Republicans are going to vote Republican, Democrat. He will carry California to such an extent, he may get more than 50% of the vote in California, and I think it's almost assured in a way. I don't want to put that word out there, but if he gets 95%, all 95 votes in New York, I would not be surprised if he got more than 50% in California. And if he does, he's so friggin', I think he may be all, and then with the other East Coast, Pennsylvania and Rhode Island and these other ones that are coming down even before California, he'll be over the top. I predict he'll be more than 1237.
But will those electors follow through on their pledge? That's what Roger Stone was talking about early in the clip today on my show. He suggested that the people that come to Cleveland, the Trump supporters, to watch their attempts to steal vote from Donald, even if it gets over 1,237. He will have the rooms of those electors where they're staying in Cleveland. And he suggested that some of the Trump supporters may want to go knock on those people's doors, those electors, and with a pledge and say, do you plan on voting the way that the people that voted and sent you here to do? You're supposed to be committed on the first ballot. Do you plan to live up to that pledge? Would you sign? Yes, I will live up to what I'm supposedly required to do, or they cannot sign. He says, be courteous. They've already put the first plan together. That's one of the first plans. And if they don't want to sign, then we know who to blame. If he doesn't get enough votes,
I'm going to look for one number.
Pardon?
Because I'm going to look for one number because somebody's going to add up these votes to get to 1237. Whether they're committed,
of course.
But I want to see this. A month ago, a couple of weeks ago, after the last process, he needed 52% of the delegate votes to get that. 52%, and then the next day was 53%, and then it's 55%, and now it's 56%. And now I heard the other day it's 62%. Now we need 62%. So his percentage keeps going up, and nothing's happened.
Well, that's not exactly true. He lost some of the votes in Louisiana, Tennessee, Wisconsin, because they didn't. His delegates weren't placed in the positions, even though he had them coming. So those people are already.
Well, what I want to see is when he gets 1,237 votes.
Right.
Okay, that's the number. He's got 1,237. I want to see what the percentage is of the votes not cast yet that he still needs. Will it be he needs 90% of the remaining votes, 80%? Where's the number going to be? He's got 1,237, but he still needs 80% of the remaining votes.
I'll tell you, Roger says that Plebus, the head of the GOP, has in his pocket an envelope with the vote total of the delegates that they intend to give.
And the winner is.
And it's 1205. That's
he's already got the number.
He's got it written on an envelope in his pocket. That's the delegates that they're going to have, that Donald Trump has heading to Cleveland.
Irregardless of what the count is.
Right. Well, he's announcing what Donald's going to have right now.
Oh, okay.
Will you be surprised if it comes out 1205? I saw that happen one time in a caucus in Iowa. A gentleman got there a few minutes late and heard the 6 o'clock news, and the 6 o'clock news came on, and evidently they got the blurb or the talking points sent out early for the news and didn't realize it was supposed to be on at 7. The guy read it at 6. He told him exactly the caucus percentages, and the guy was leaving his car to go into the high school to vote, and it was exactly the percentages that were in the newspaper the next day.
Yeah. You got to publish those papers, early.
Sure. Well, you can't be too careful, You want to get the scoop. Have you signed off? Or are you?